Afternoon, folks. Back at the shop again, working on one of my own vehicles. Got to do some vacuum line repair. In a previous video that I'll put a link to up here, I got a lot of comments on it, questions about other items going on in the vacuum control system on these old XJs. And in the process of helping other people on the internet diagnose their problems, realized I had one of the same problems going on. So I'm going to preface the work we do here by explaining some of the symptoms we got going on. Of course, this is a 96 XJ with the 4-liter in it, and some of this will apply to ZJs, YJs, maybe even into the TJ with how vacuum controls work. The XJ Cherokee, through its entire run, used a vacuum controlled HVAC panel. So the HVAC system, the heating and air system, uses manifold vacuum to operate the actuators for the vent system, whether it's on the defrost or out the front or down to the feet. And one of the things I noticed going on, and it's been this way the whole time I had it, I just thought maybe it's a weak motor. When the engine would get under heavy load, the AC would revert to defrost, which is the fail-safe. If there's no manifold vacuum or something's wrong with the system, it goes to defrost. Well, that's not what's going on with this one. I actually found a hole in one of the vacuum lines. So I don't know if I'll be able to show you the hole. Maybe further on into the work, once I've got the battery out of the way, I can show you exactly where the hole is. But it looks like a little battery acid, probably from servicing an old battery when this car was much older, may have spilled out onto the vacuum line and degraded it. But I'm going to bring the camera in closer and point out some things and how the vacuum system in these XJs is set up. It's very similar in YJs and in the ZJ, whatever the other Grand Cherokee is. Basically anything with the 4-liter engine. Very, very similar vacuum system. So let me get the camera moved here. All right, so here we are. Typical 4-liter engine bay. Of course, this is a 96, so there's some vacuum items that you may have on yours. I do not. I do not have a fuel return line, so there's no vacuum controlled pressure regulator on the fuel rail. Talking with XJs, YJs, TJs, anything with the 4-liter and vacuum, you've got to talk about vacuum leaks and what it does to your combustion. Obviously, if you've got a vacuum leak in this system here, this is part of that CCV system referenced in the video, the previous earlier video that I referenced above. This is the CCV line. If that hose is open, then number one, the emissions, your crankcase emissions isn't working, and then number two, you've got an open manifold vacuum leak. These engines run off of manifold absolute pressure for computing the fuel injection. In the OBD2 versions, so 96 and later, the MAP sensor is mounted on the throttle body. So there's a little rubber hose that goes right into the throttle body. On the OBD1 system, so 91 to 95, you would actually have, this would actually be a small vacuum line that would go up, and then the MAP sensor was mounted on the firewall. Very similar systems, and actually that OBD1 system is what I'm putting on the CJ. So, but vacuum controls for other items. Obviously, I've replaced this because that one was rotted away and it was causing me to have idle issues. But vacuum controls. So there's two other purposes of manifold vacuum in these motors. One of them is fuel tank scavenging. So you want to be able to scavenge the fuel vapors, the cook-off vapors off the fuel tank instead of it going into the atmosphere. And the way they do that, there's a vent line that comes from the fuel tank, and it comes up to your charcoal canister. And then there's a line that comes off the charcoal canister and goes into this. This is the vacuum purge valve. And then the other half of that line comes around the firewall, and it goes down and hooks into the side of the manifold. So that's one vacuum system. So you need to check the integrity of all these lines. You don't want open vacuum leaks. And recently I had to replace that rubber nipple. The other vacuum control system is for your HVAC and your cruise control. And now that nipple's on this particular version is coming off the back of the manifold through a check valve and back to a hard plastic line that falls behind the manifold. It splits off a T, goes into the HVAC panel. There's a line that comes out of the HVAC panel and goes into your heater control valve. That's vacuum controlled. That hard line continues down the firewall, down the fender line. This is it right here. It has a T on it, and it goes into the control solenoid or dash pot or whatever you want to call it for the cruise control. So this is a cruise control motor, and it utilizes manifold vacuum to determine how much load's on the motor. That line continues down, and then it ends up going behind. Let me grab a flashlight. That line continues down, and it ends up going behind the bumper where there's a vacuum reservoir. Basically, it's a big plastic bottle that'll hold manifold vacuum pressure. So my problem is, I don't know if you can see it in here, maybe you can, there's a hole in my vacuum line right there. So I'm never capable of holding vacuum in the system. It's just an open hole. So when I'm at high manifold vacuum, so the engine is capable of requesting more air than the throttle is allowing it. So I'm at a very high manifold vacuum. The HVAC system works pretty well. The cruise control is pretty steady. So that would be basically motor's not under a whole lot of load. The minute I load up the engine, the HVAC system goes to full defrost, and my cruise control doesn't want to work right. In other words, if I set the cruise at 55 miles an hour, the minute I encounter the slightest amount of hill, it's struggling to maintain the 55, and it's because of this vacuum leak. So today, we're going to remove the battery, split open this plastic line, and then put a piece of rubber vacuum tubing across it to splice the line, and we'll take it for a test drive and see if it fixes the problem. So let me set a camera up. All right, so as I said before, we've got to remove the battery to get access to that vacuum line. If you've got any other vacuum system, PCV system questions, I suggest first you go back and look at the video that I previously referenced with the card at the beginning of the video. And I'll put a link in the description as well, just for ease of finding it. If after that you still have questions, feel free to message me or respond to the video. I usually try to get back to people pretty quick. So, taking the battery out of an XJ, and mind you, this is an oversized battery, which required a little finagling to get in here. So it is not the typical XJ battery install. But obviously we're going to take the ground off first. It looks like my ground was a little loose to begin with. And while we've got all this out, we'll clean the terminals up real well. It kind of turns into, while you're in there, why has that one got to be different? That one's always got to be different. Now, for those of you that actually own an XJ, I think most of y'all know if you actually get the right equipment size battery to go in here, it's actually kind of small. You can fit a larger battery into this tray and give you a little bit more reserve capacity. The Interstate MT34 will fit. It just means that you'll have to cut some of the plastic battery tray open so that it'll be long enough, but the height-wise it fits perfect. And it has a much better reserve capacity on it than the little tiny thing that they shoehorn in here. It is a very tight battery. All right, our battery's out. Now I can get to that vacuum line. Yeah. So, let's see if I can tip this in here, you can get a better look. So what I'm going to be doing, that's in the way. There's a little hole in this vacuum line right here. So I'm going to make a cut on either side of that hole and then slip a piece of flexible vacuum tubing over that and try and shore up this leak. A little spit to lube it up with. I believe that'll do it. Let's put the battery back in and then we'll take it for a test drive. We're going to clean up these terminals. And as I said before, since I've gone to the oversized battery, the MT34, and therefore had to cut open the battery box, it is really crucial to do that. You've got to have the factory battery tied down. Bungee's cord ain't going to do it. If you take a hard right-hand turn, the battery will just slip right out of the box. So you got to have the factory Z-bar to hold this battery in when you're using the larger battery with the tray cut open. And as far as for treating battery terminals, prior to putting them on, or even after they're on. I use a product called Deoxit D5, and I'll put a link in the description to this product. This Deoxit company also makes some other good electrical component products, but this is really good for helping reduce corrosion, not just on battery terminals, any electrical connector, especially in Jeeps and older vehicles where they weren't so hermetically sealed up as well. This is really good stuff. So I'm going to spray a little bit on the terminals before I put this together, and then after it's together, I'll give them a really good shot because of its anti-corrosive properties. We'll get our positive terminal on. Make sure that's good and tight. You remember how I talked previous videos when we're dealing with the motors on these about how some of it's in standard and some of it's in metric and whatnot? This is another prime example. The positive terminal, factory positive terminal for a 96 Jeep XJ is a 12 millimeter. The factory ground is a 13 millimeter. That's good tight. Make sure that's good and seated. We don't want that coming back off. Because if all goes well, the next time this battery comes out, we'll be doing our motor swap, and at the same time doing a much beefier battery cables. So when we do pull the motor later on in the year, and that will be a video I shoot, we'll be swapping out all the power cables. So batteries installed. We got our new our repaired vacuum line. I'm gonna shoot some more deoxit all over the terminals to try and reduce any corrosion that we may be getting. This stuff is safe for circuit boards too, by the way, just so that you know. All right, wrenches are out of the way. Let's get the light down, hood closed, and let's take it for a test drive. Oh, I can tell you right now, it's going to work good. There's no air coming out from the top vent at all now, and before, even at idle, I would have air. So let's take it for a little spin here, just to see what's going on. Looks like we got some weather coming in. That'll be good. Reduce the temperatures here. It's been blazing hot. Oh yeah, it's working great. I'm under heavy load trying to accelerate up a hill, and my vent is still coming out where it's supposed to. Oh, and the cruise control kicked on instantly. Oh, this is perfect. Perfect. All right, we're gonna. I'm happy. I'm glad I found that. To those of you that made comments on the previous video about vacuum lines, and I said check them all, make sure there's no cracks or holes in any of them. I'm pleasantly surprised. So we're gonna go ahead and wrap this video up. Once again, if you like this content, go ahead and hit like, hit subscribe, hit that bell icon for future notifications, and as always, there's more to follow.